Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time clicking on one of my videos. I am Sammy J and I'm mostly known for coming on here and talking about my alopecia areata, which I've been doing for the past 3 or 4 years now. However, one thing that I never introduced myself as is an author or a writer, which as of April 2018 I am an author. I published this book right here in the background. It is called Living with an Open Heart. It is a book of poetry and reflections, and recently, as of May 25th of this year, I published The Love She Carries, which is also a book of poetry and reflections. So I thought I would just briefly come on here and talk about one of the biggest parts of my life, which is writing. So my name is Samantha, or Sam for short, or Sammy J as my channel name would say. I am in my mid to late 20s, which is really weird to say, and I am from Maine, which is the far northeastern state in the United States and is often mistaken for Canada. I've been writing as long as I can remember. There's just always been something about words to me and stringing them together and making them mean something and creating something out of nothing, and have whatever it is that you're conceptualizing suddenly manifest within somebody else's mind. Or in terms of like poetry, that can be interpreted in so many different ways. Writing something that can move someone emotionally. It's something that's always kind of fascinated me. Growing up, I always turned to writing whenever I needed to talk something out, or whenever I needed to get something off my chest, or even just be happy about something and communicate with people that I loved. I would usually write them letters and let them know that I loved them so very much. My mom knows that one because I wrote quite a few for my mom. That was just my go-to method of communication and expressing myself. But it became so much more than that when I got older and really learned the impact that words can have and how much you can lift somebody up just by saying something that they might need to hear. Growing up, I kind of always understood that you need to choose your words carefully because they have power and there's weight in your words. When I was about 10 years old, one of my teachers at school was giving out gifts to the class. I'm not sure if it was like Christmas, but whatever the case, she was giving out gifts, and she said something along the lines of, "There's a writer in the class." I immediately felt myself getting red. I was like, oh no, she's talking about me. She said my name and I went up and she gave me a notebook, and I still have that notebook somewhere. I consistently looked back at that moment growing up and I was like, yeah, I'm a writer. That is what I do. It was funny because when I sat back down with the notebook, my classmate turned to me and they were like, "Do you get paid?" I'm 10. And it was kind of funny to me that anybody would think that I got paid for it because, well, for one, I was 10, but also just because I loved writing and I didn't think that was a thing that you could get paid for. And even now I'm like, yeah, I have books out, but I'm not getting paid. I'm sharing them because I have things that I want to say, and there's things I want to share, and knowledge, and all of these tidbits of information that I've gathered over the years, and things that I've noticed, and things that I feel like people should hear. I needed to hear them at one point. So a lot of people have asked me, you know, why poetry? Story writing is very different from poetry writing in my experience. I completely am invested in the thing that I'm writing, and that happens a lot with story writing too, but it's like this overflowing of emotion, right? And it's so powerful that it needs to come out onto the page. That to me is what poetry is. It's an overflowing of emotion. So when people ask me why poetry, it's because I have a lot of feelings that I need to get out onto the page and I need to share with people, and I feel like that's a part of living with an open heart, which is my first book, if you didn't get that connection. It's being open about who you are and what you believe in, and being open to the people around you includes you healing and making sure that you can adequately form those connections with those people. And when it comes to self-publishing, why did I self-publish as opposed to going through a publisher? Well, poetry is very hard to get published. The poetry community is definitely expanding, and people are definitely gaining an interest, you know, with people like Atticus and Ruby Kaur. I don't know if I pronounced her name right, and I feel really bad if I didn't. With people like them kind of hitting mainstream, they're kind of making poetry cool again. But they created their own market, started by publishing their own poetry, and then they got picked up by a publisher. For a poet that's just getting started out, it's really hard to get published unless you fit a certain demographic. A lot of the literary agents aren't looking to represent poets. I personally felt like I just needed to self-publish because it was going to be the easiest route for me. And I felt like a lot of the things that I had to say needed to be said now because of the topics that I address within my poetry, which is basically living with an open heart and accepting people and loving openly and in thinking of a more universal love. And I felt like the quickest way for me to be able to say those things and get those messages out there is to self-publish. Now, what is the self-publishing process like? It is not necessarily an easy process because you're doing all of the work yourself. I mean, the easiest part was putting the book together, and the actual publishing of the book was the easiest part for me. I had help with the cover because I didn't draw that. I'm not an artist, but I had a friend draw this. I commissioned her. She did an amazing job with that, but I did all of the rest. I put the poems together in an order that I thought would be the most logical. What I like to do with my poetry is try to tell a story if possible. Now with this book, I split it into 4 different sections. There is gratitude, which is basically my thank yous, and I wanted to prelude the rest of the book with that section because I have so many people to thank for the last book, and the support that they showed me last time that I published a book was absolutely astounding and amazing, and I am forever thankful. There are so many people in my life that I'm so thankful for. But then there's connection, love, and becoming. And although that doesn't follow like a clear order, gratitude is something that I felt the need to include in my book. And then connection is more about connecting with other people. And then from that connection is love, and it's more of a universal love and a love that comes from something a lot greater than me and you. And that love is our becoming. Not just as individuals, but as a collective. So I tried to structure it in a way that kind of made sense. Even though I'm not necessarily writing a novel, I am structuring my poetry to tell a story of some sort, and I'm hoping that people pick up on that. If they don't, there you go. The fact that I structure my poetry kind of to tell a story. Will I ever publish a novel? Possibly. I am trying to get myself back into the habit of writing stories. I am working on one right now, but it's never going to see the light of day because the topic is entirely self-indulgent and I'm never going to share it with anybody. If it so happens that I end up writing a novel, I will try to get that published. I might continue this journey of self-publishing because this is a lot of fun, and even though it's not the easiest road, and the reason it's not the easiest is because of the marketing aspect. I know nothing about marketing and I know nothing about getting the word out there. I'm basically just depending on word of mouth, which isn't entirely the best approach because you're not going to sell copies, but I don't really mind. I've written quite a few passages in here that are kind of hinting at a certain story that might actually take form soon. Anyways, if you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, The Love She Carries, or even if you are interested in picking up a copy of Living with an Open Heart, you can find both of these on Amazon under my pseudonym S.J. Roy, and there are also Kindle versions available if you would rather pick that up instead. It is significantly cheaper to get the Kindle version, but I understand that it is not the same as holding the books in your hand. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. Peace, love, and happiness to all of you. I hope you have a wonderful day.